and gentlemen, now welcome to App State Sports News and Facts Podcast with your host, Jacob Elliott. Hey, Mountain News fans, I am Jacob Elliott with App State Sports News and Facts Podcast. I'm here today with one of App State's pretty good wide receivers. I believe you're a wide receiver, right, Mr. Washington?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Sorry. It's been a long time since we heard his name, but this is Mr. Tony Washington, now coach at Coastal Carolina. How are you doing today, Mr. Washington?
Oh, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Good, sir. I'm so happy to have you on, and a lot of App fans, I know, we're going to be happy to hear your voice again. So let me just get started. Let's go back to App State. Why did you choose App State when you were going to look at colleges?
For me, coming out, academics was very important. I knew I wanted to getting the architecture and building sciences program there, and so that was really big for me. And that was what interested me at first. And then once I took my visit, just feeling the family atmosphere and all those things kind of sealed the deal for me.
Yes, sir. I know a lot of App fans and a lot of former App fans and players say that once you go up there, you never want to leave. And I understand that being up there so much. But so when you got to App State, how was the you started playing? Like, how was it? Like, did you really enjoy playing there? What you like the most about playing at App in front of the fans at The Rock?
Enjoyed it. The crowd was always, in tune to the game. There were always seats filled. It was just always a good time at App, and so I appreciated my time there. I appreciate the fans always coming out and support it. Whether we were winning or losing, they always seemed to come out there. Luckily a lot of times we were winning, so that was always good.
Yes, you were coached under Coach Jerry Moore, correct?
Yes, sir.
I've met Jerry Moore. I know a lot of people love him. I know what your answer is, but how do you feel about him? But just give me like a little insight how you feel about Jerry Moore. A lot of us know and everyone likes him, loves him. How is your feelings towards him?
Oh, man, Coach Moore, he was almost like, when you talk about father figures, of course I had my father in my life, but, he's just a guy you could look up to, just things he did for that program, the things he did for his players, the way he cared about us. He kind of made the play special. He made it what it was, and so, he was an easy guy definitely to play for.
Yes, sir. Yes, I know that's a great. I started getting the football when Jerry Moore was at his last little bit. My dad's been a fan. He went to all 3 national championships and stuff. For you, it's just you're a well-known name, and like everyone considers you a really well-known wide receiver in App State history. I do, of course. So, what was your favorite game you ever played in at App?
Favorite game we ever played in at App, I guess I would have to say my senior year, beating Georgia Southern at home. There was, there were a lot of games that could be the favorite, but that one sticks out to me just because of, 2013 season wasn't a great year, kind of down, but to kind of finish the season strong and then beat Georgia Southern, who was ranked number 1 at the time, man, it was a great feeling. Kind of helped get that season back on track a little bit and finish strong.
Is that, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the season that we were the year before they were supposed to move up to FBS, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And everyone expected that. And no one expected that, but everyone expected some kind of turmoil with all that going on. But, Georgia Southern, I was actually at that game, and it was just amazing to see our seniors go out to win against them. And, I've talked to multiple people, and when we play Georgia Southern, it's like the record 0-0. Like I told multiple people, it's pretty much like you don't even have a record. It's like all new, doesn't matter what the records are. It's always for something's on the line, and it's always physical and very aggressive, and that's what makes a good rivalry, and most people underestimate the Georgia Southern rivalry. Do you agree?
Yeah, if you don't know, if you've never been part of it, I think it's definitely underestimated. I think if you played in it or been a fan in it or you follow those 2 schools, I would say people know how important it is. Just you can tell by the way people show up and the way that the custom T-shirts and all those things are somehow get made right before the game. So I definitely think people who are part of that game know what it means, but maybe outside of the rest of the country may not know.
And you guys were in SoCon when you played. So, like, you have Furman, Wofford. And so, like, for me, I always remember the big games. But when you go down to the wire, it's always about those meticulous conference games. Do you have one particular conference game you really thought was you really enjoyed playing besides Georgia Southern, or was just mostly all Georgia Southern?
Of course, Georgia Southern was the big one. The other one you always kind of got hyped to play for me was Wofford, because it was always, you had to beat Georgia Southern, you had to beat Wofford. Those were the two teams that were always going to be, contending with us for a conference championship. So I think those two games you really got hyped for every year.
Yeah, I sort of got hyped every year. Every year I always watched the Georgia Southern games. I'm like, last year, people just don't understand how deep this rivalry goes. And so after your college, I know a lot of people wondering, what'd you do after college?
When I graduated, I was lucky enough to participate in Pro Day. So I did Pro Day, ended up getting a chance to be a free agent with the Indianapolis Colts. Stuck around for the off season, got cut right before the 2014 season. Ended up signing with the Jaguars on practice squad. They did practice squad with a year with the Jaguars. After that, stayed with Jacksonville until 2017, on and off the active roster. And then 2017 got cut, went up to New England for an off season, was there, ended up not making the team there, and then kind of, came home, had decided I wanted to do football. Looked like it was over. I had 3.5 good years, almost 4 good years in the NFL, so I kind of thought about what would be next. And for me, I got a couple calls about coaching from Coach Stepp, who was the wide receiver coach at App my last 2 years, and so he kind of put the idea in my head about being a coach, and so I pursued that. Ended up getting a job at East Carolina. From there, I went to Louisville with Coach Satterfield, and now lucky enough to be the wide receiver coach here at Coastal Carolina.
Yes, and I know it's hard I know it's kind of hard to be in the NFL and get cut, but for me, people who stay on, it just shows that they have what it takes, and they just have the mentality. You may not make it, but still it's on your resume, and that kind of shows a little bit more on the resume. It's not like glimmering glory in the NFL all the time, but still, for me, looking back, it's still, for App State at that time, mostly, I feel like it was very acceptable because you guys were kind of up and coming, like big conference, like people just didn't really know about App too much all about App. They of course knew about Michigan game, but not all about App. So for you, I would consider that kind of a downer, but also it could be a positive on your resume.
Yeah, I think more than anything, the experience. Everybody, you grow up, I always wanted to play in the NFL. Something I always wanted to do, was always a dream of mine. So to live out that dream was definitely, I enjoyed it. It was tough. It wasn't the way you always necessarily wanted it to be. But I think just being there and reaching that level of competition, it always meant a lot to me.
Yes, sir. So you went to East Carolina to be a coach first?
Yes, that was my first stop.
How was that, and how long did you coach there?
So I was there for a season. It was good. East Carolina was definitely a school we played twice when I was in school, so it's kind of a pseudo in-state rivalry. So it was good to go there and kind of get my feet wet. I got to work for some really good coaches and some really good people. It was a great job for a first job. I worked under Tony Peterson, who is now the offensive coordinator at App. So it was good, man. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I liked everything about it. And I think it was a good introduction into college football.
Yeah, starting out of school, no offense, ECU, they were kind of struggling through those times nowadays, but starting off at a school that's in the FBS is really positive for people due to the fact that most coaches have to go work their way up. You just went straight to FBS school, and that's kind of surprising for most people, but for me, it's kind of surprising because due to the fact that you're new, you haven't really coached, but then again, you get a chance at FBS and you prove yourself. That's the big positive. And then you went to Louisville, correct?
Yes, sir.
Was that last year?
Yes, sir.
Everyone, let me just say I love Scott Satterfield. He is the man. Even though he left App, I respect his decision. I'm so happy for him. I know he has great coaches. He's turning around that program. I know it was fun what is your impressions and thoughts of that, being a coach there at Louisville, Scott Satterfield, and turning around that program like they did so fast?
I think it was definitely an eye-opening experience. You know, like you said, going from East Carolina, where I think we won 3 games that year, now going to Louisville, where they only won 1 game the year before. You know, you definitely see the same type of mentality in those kids early on. When we first got there, you know, a little bit of a loser's mentality, for lack of a better word, just not used to winning. And, you know, but they bought in. They did a great job. Believing in the coaching staff, believing in Coach Satterfield, believing in what he was talking about. And so you watched as the years went on, you know, the year went on, guys slowly started believing in themselves, believing they could win, believing they could do this and do that, and buying into the culture. And I think that was the turning point, was when they really bought into the culture and realized they were a good team. You know, the light switch flipped, and we were ready to go. We competed hard down the stretch last season.
Yeah, I was talking to Phil Steele the other day. He's going to be my first release podcast. But talking to him and stuff, he said Coach Satterfield may have been the best coach last year, and I kind of agree. I mean, I've met Scott Satterfield multiple times. He's a really nice guy. He's focused. He knows what he needs to do. I mean, we kind of were sad to see him leave that, but we understood him. We said he's his own man now. He's doing what he needs to do. If he wins, he wins. If he loses, he loses. He's his own man. He proved himself. And, I mean, App fans, for me personally, I love Scott Satterfield. I pull him from every game. He is just the coach that you just will pull for, even if you leave, because he's been at App. He's played App. He's coached App. He left, but still you still remember Scott Satterfield in your mind because of all he did to bring App from the FCS to FBS so quickly. And so then going to a P5 school, a lot of people didn't expect what he did to come back, but like it was an eye-opening experience, like he said, for not just me, for everyone looking at it, because he turned around that program, and all the good coaches, including you, came in, and you look at all this and you say, wow, that's impressive. That's a huge plus. And so then after that, you left to go to Coastal, correct?
Yes, sir.
How did that happen?
So really, at East Carolina and at Louisville, I was kind of in a graduate assistant quality control role, wasn't a full-time position. Enjoyed working for those staffs, but thought it was time, you know, for me and my family to just get a full-time job and to spread my wings and get my own room. I thought that I had worked for 2 really good wide receiver coaches, and Keith Gaither and Gunnar Brewer, and they taught me a lot in those 2 years. And so both of them kind of felt like I was ready to try to get my own room. And so, you know, the opportunity arose at Coastal. Had a few people that kind of knew each other, between people I knew and people here at Coastal, and they kind of set up an interview. Interview went well. Next thing you know, I got the job.
Yes, sir. So I know Coastal, like a lot of people let me just go through this. A lot of people don't really think they have a team, but for me, studying them, looking at them, they have what it takes. It's just a few pieces I'm missing. And then my receiver game, we played them last year, lightning delay, blah, blah, blah. But I was at that game, but still, like, I can see they want to win. It's just there's a few key pieces missing. So how do you feel about this season for Coastal and you personally for the wide receivers?
Oh man, I feel really good about this season. I think we have something special. I don't think people really know how good this team is. You look at last season, you know, going 5-7. I think that record could have easily been a 6-6, 7-5 season easily. You know, we lost 5 games by a total of 24 points. So you lose 5 games by less than a touchdown. You know, a touchdown's a difference in all those games. And so I think we're on the cusp of being a really good team. I think now is to go out there, like you said, and show what we can do. And people will believe, man. I expect big things. I think our wide receiver core is highly underrated. I think they'll have a really good season this year. We have some really good players, some really good older players, some younger players who are catching stride right now. And so I'm excited about the season. I'm excited to see that we're going to be playing this season and ready just to show everybody in the Sun Belt Conference what we can do.
Yes, and I definitely agree with that. Talking to Multifield and Phil Steele, and this, I told everyone this, the Sun Belt is relatively new conference, and that's why they don't get the respect as much as they need because they're fairly new. But the teams in the conference are a heck of improving. I mean, I know for a fact, I talked to Arkansas State, Louisiana, every team in the conference except for, in my opinion, ULM maybe, is just improving. I mean, I can see improvement every year, and I want Coastal to go a bowl game and win so bad for the Sun Belt because Coastal has what it takes. I see that. A lot of people, like, kind of get on to me, like, why do you talk about Coastal like they're good? Because I see what they have. I see the potential, and I see what kind of culture they are building there, and I feel like they're going to be a really tough contender, not just for you guys, but the whole Sun Belt's improving. Texas State has, like, 46 new players coming in. They have a new coach. ULM, I don't know. South Alabama has new facilities. Recruits are really high. Georgia State has Sean Elliott. They continue to class. You guys have talent. App has talent. Troy has a second-year head coach. But just in the gist, you see the whole Sun Belt's going to be really improved. And this year, I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be a multiple-loss champion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, you hear the AAC. They always say, Power Six, they're probably the best conference out of, the Power Five teams. But I don't know, man. Working at East Carolina and working in the AAC and seeing some of the top teams. Of course, you got UCF, you have Cincinnati, you have Memphis, you have Houston. But I would say outside of those big teams, man, I think the Sun Belt. You look at App, you look at Coastal coming up, you look at Georgia Southern, you look at Ark State, you look at Louisiana, you look at all these teams, man. I think that from top to bottom, I think that the Sun Belt is just as good as the AAC, which is a conference that most people would say will be maybe the best conference that's not Power Five. And so I think the Sun Belt's got a lot to prove this season. I think there are a lot of good teams. I think that it's going to be a good race. I think it's going to be a good race this season. Everybody's going to have to compete, with the COVID cases and everything. It's going to really be thrown up in the air who has who from week to week and all those things.
Yeah, I just want to ask you a follow-up 2 questions before I let you go, Mr. Coach. So one thing is, too, is that I know a lot of people say Boise State and Mountain West. Like you said, the Sun Belt is underrated, but it's a young league. That's why it's underrated. But talking to Phil Steele and other people, like I've been saying, they expect Louisiana, App, maybe even Arkansas State to be ranked this year, and maybe your first ever Sun Belt ranked game against Louisiana, App State, if the polls go the right way and they win. For you guys have Kansas. I saw on your schedule. That was a huge win last year for Coastal. And then you guys played Liberty last game, which beat Georgia Southern, which, in my opinion, a lot of people hate Liberty. I just think they're a good ball team. Don't want to, but you guys, your schedule is fairly. You play Louisiana, Arkansas State back to back, and you play us towards the end. But your schedule is relatively easier than I thought last year, and you guys could possibly make a bowl game with the schedule you have.
Oh yeah, I think watching our guys in off season, even though they were gone most of the time, when they came back, they had the right mindset. Looking at them now in camp, and now that school's starting, they're practicing at a very high level. We've been fortunate enough to keep majority of the team healthy, so I hope that continues to happen. I think just with the new bowl game being here in Myrtle Beach, I think that's going to light a fire under our guys. I think just with realizing, I think last year was an eye-opening experience, realizing how good we really were, how we could compete with any team in the conference. I think that's going to help our guys, and I see us, making a bowl game this year. I don't want to be too braggadocious or too confident, but I think we have a really good team with really good pieces, and I think that we can go up and compete with anybody in the Sun Belt, and I think, we'll definitely be in contention for a bowl game this year.
I totally agree with that, Coach. I really do agree with that. A lot of people think I'm crazy, but hey, they don't know what Coastal has. I see something they don't. But just want to finish off with this. So what's your overall view of the college football this year? I know talking to some people, they think UCF may get in the playoffs because of all this. But besides that, what's your whole view of the whole NCAA this year and how it's being handled, in your opinion, for Coastal and for everyone?
I think it's being handled probably the best way it can. People want to see football. A lot of these schools need football just financially. And I think anytime that, that stuff is involved, decisions have to be made for the betterment of everybody. So you're balancing, the health of our student athletes. You're balancing, all these opportunities. And I think, college football has done a great job because there's pressure, from upper level. There's pressure from fans. There's pressure from players. And everybody wants to play. Everybody knows the risks. But I think it's important that as long as we do things the right way, I think they've done a good job implementing the test. They've done a good job with the just the sanitation and all those things they're requiring this season. So I think that the NCAA is putting the players first and putting their health first and making sure they're safe. You know, even with the mouth guards and all that, I think it's just going to come down to just, you know, whether it's the right thing to do. And so far, I think every team has been doing a good job. We've been doing a good job. You know, we just had a test, and we tested 160 people between players and staff, and 0 positive tests. So our guys are doing a great job of quarantining themselves when they're not here and staying away from, you know, just everything else that's going on. So I feel like, you know, there's definitely a possibility of having a season. I think the NCAA is going about it the right way. I still think it's going to be a game time decision about, you know, whether we play or not. But right now, I think we're trending in the right direction.
Yes, sir. I just want to tell my fans, this is Terry Washington, my receiver coach at Coastal Carolina. Thank you, Mr. Washington, for joining me today. And that's all the time we have for right now, folks. This is Jacob Elliott from App State Sports News and Facts Channel and Podcast, signing out.